An 11-year-old in the UK wanted to celebrate World Book Day at his school by dressing up as a book character that's been getting a lot of attention this year. He dressed up as Christian Grey from 50 Shades of Grey. Now, this 11-year-old did not come up with the idea himself. It was actually something that was sanctioned by his own mother. Okay, so his mother was in favor of it. She thought that it would be funny. In fact, she said that, you know, it wasn't that big of a deal. We thought it was funny. We were walking home from school, and he had the idea as going as Christian Grey. At first, we laughed it off, but then we discussed it with a few friends and saw the funny side and decided it was quite a good costume idea. All right, well, his teachers and the administrators at the school that he goes to did not think that it was a funny idea. In fact, they said that his outfit was inappropriate, and as a result, he was not allowed to participate in World Book Day or be in any of the pictures for the event.
The kid isn't going to actually spank anyone. Okay.
Well, he might, but if he does, it's because he's an 11-year-old boy, not because he's dressed as Christian Grey.
It's a different idea of spanking. Yeah. And it is a book, and it is very popular, right? And by the way, there's a ton of offensive stuff in books. There's a ton of violent stuff in books, a ton of sexual stuff in books. They're still in books. You know, and he didn't come in an inappropriate outfit. Like, if he'd come in dressed up as her, you know, all tied up and stuff, he'd say, well, okay.
Vibrating eggs
He's wearing a suit. He's wearing a cute little suit. Look, if you're worried that having him dressed like this is going to somehow inform kids about the existence of 50 Shades of Grey, let me tell you something. They already know about 50 Shades of Grey, and they've probably already seen internet porn. I would not be surprised, okay?
He's seen worse.
Yeah, he's seen worse. And the thing is, his mom makes a devastating point. I want to read this quote, because I was kind of on the fence until she said this, and I was like, I'm no longer on the fence. I agree with her. One of the teachers went dressed as Dexter. I don't see why sex is seen as more offensive than murder.
Damn.
Is Dexter also a book?
Yeah, apparently it is. I haven't read it, but it is.
Yeah, he's a serial killer, bathed in blood.
Yeah.
I think that's a little worse.
Yeah.
And as a parent, I know, I got 2 young kids, right? Things where you see women's body parts, men's body parts, big billboards in LA, that doesn't bother me at all. The kids think that's normal. That's the human body, right? But when I see like the horror movie posters and like bleeding from the eyes and all these like grotesque things, and my kids ask, hey, what is that? I don't know how to explain that to them. That'll give them nightmares. I think that stuff is 1,000 times worse than any allusion to sex when a kid is, by the way, dressed in a suit.
Right.
Yeah. This bothers me, especially they say that it's inappropriate for an 11-year-old, because I have been saying since I read 50 Shades of Grey, which I did on the recommendation of a friend, that it is written at a 5th grade level. I think it's perfectly appropriate for a 5th grader because it's written for children. And I know this is going to be super embarrassing, but when I was a little kid, I used to go, I was a nerd, I used to go to the library a lot, and I remember some of the first illustrations of boobs I ever saw was in Dungeons & Dragons rule books, which was sort of titillating as a child to me.
I really wish you hadn't told me.
But there's a reason I'm telling you.
It's so embarrassing.
It's super embarrassing. But that sort of thing, that like the little bit of like glimpses into adult life, even if they were on Demons or whatever, made me more interested in reading. And so I read a ton as a kid because you see a little bit of violence or a little bit of like racism in the case of like Huckleberry Finn and stuff like that. You see a bigger world that you as a child are not familiar with, and it makes you want to read. Don't shut down this kid because he's getting interested in books that are at least a little bit more in depth and reveal more about the world. Encourage him to dress up like that.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I definitely don't think they should have left him out. I think that's just messed up, and I think what he's doing was fine. My issue here is with him. Like, when I was in 5th grade, like, I thought head was when a guy put his head on a girl's boob. Like, you don't know enough about sex, like, as a 5th grader or as an 11-year-old. So my fear is, like, he's going to go to prom night. He's going to be like, oh, forget the condoms. Where are my cable cords? Like, that's going to be his fear growing up. That's what I'm worried about.
I hear you, Hannah, but the internet has ruined us all. So the 50 Shades of Grey, by the time he goes to the prom, is going to be the least of anybody's problems. And that's why now sex is different than it used to be, right?
Yeah.
Everybody thinks you got to do the cycle, right? And
I don't know. What?
you know, start here and go there and then there and then come back up top, right? And so
It's funny because because I've never heard it referred to
No, I
that way.
haven't either. Anna just gave me a very
cycle.
weird look.
No, I made that up.
It's more than
but
just
it's,
a show on
okay.
MSNBC.
Right. but
where
it
it
should
came
be.
from,
But
though.
it's kind of catchy. It is kind of the cycle, right? And that is the assumption. So 50 Shades of Grey, please,
Yeah,
right?
that's
That's nothing compared to what they see on there.
There is a silver lining to this story, and the silver lining is that he has a mother who's obviously very open-minded and also has an open, line of communication with him, which means that he's probably going to get the education necessary to make smart choices when he is ready to have sex. Look, that's a little bit of speculation, but just based on what I've read about her, she seems like an open-minded woman, and I like that. Yeah. I like that she doesn't make sex such a taboo, like such a no-no that's never discussed, that we should all be ashamed of.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, earlier I was making fun of John as Dungeons and Dragons, but let me out-nerd you. I was such a nerd, they wouldn't let me into their Dungeons and Dragons club. Okay? And I agree with you on the books, because I remember in 7th grade I read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and it was an innocent little passage about a young guy, I don't know what it was, somebody maybe around my age, whatever it was, going through puberty, and he nestled his head, okay, Hannah, in some older woman's bosom. And I remember,
he got head.
Yeah, and he got
okay.
head. That's right.
I got it. Okay.
And I thought, oh my God, books are fucking awesome. Right? And remember back then, there's no internet, there's no nothing. That was as good as it got, right? So from then on, I was like, I'm reading all the books. Just in case there's another head nuzzling situation going on in a bosom. And so that's not such a bad thing.